I pressed forward, my curiosity outweighing caution. The moment my foot crunched a twig, 5 heads snapped toward me. A girl with striking green eyes and dark curls stepped forward, her arms crossed. "Who are you?" she demanded. "Aura," I said, keeping my voice steady. "New here." I heard whispers. A boy with sharp features and an easy smirk, Ezra, chuckled. "Heard whispers and decided to come sneaking into the woods alone? You've got guts." Hello there and welcome. This session is designed to help you ease into deep, restful sleep. We'll begin with a simple meditation to calm your body and quiet your mind. Then, as you drift closer to sleep, I'll introduce a gentle bedtime story, just enough to carry you into your dreams. Before we begin, press the like button and subscribe for more sleep story videos. I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment saying where you're listening from and what time. Find a comfortable position, close your eyes, and take a deep breath in and out. Take a slow, deep breath in and exhale gently. One more time, inhale deeply, filling your lungs with fresh, soothing air. And as you exhale, let go of the day, releasing any tension, any thoughts that no longer serve you. With each breath, feel your body becoming lighter, more at ease, sinking into comfort. You're doing great. Next, bring your awareness to the top of your head. Imagine a warm, gentle light resting there, like the soft glow of a bedside lamp. This light begins to spread slowly, easing away any tension in your forehead, softening the space between your eyebrows, relaxing your eyelids, your cheeks, your jaw. There's nothing you need to hold on to. Just let everything soften, loosen, unwind. Feel your shoulders drop slightly as if a weight has been lifted. Your arms become heavy, sinking into deep relaxation. With every breath, this warmth moves lower, your chest rising and falling effortlessly, your stomach soft and calm, your legs and feet completely at rest. The world around you fades into quiet. There is nothing to do, nowhere to be. Just this moment, just rest. Imagine yourself wrapped in a cozy, soft blanket of stillness, safe, warm, and peaceful. Each breath carries you deeper into comfort, deeper into rest, deeper into sleep. And here's tonight's cozy bedtime story. The Midnight Sorcery Club. The night air was crisp against my skin as I slipped out of my dorm, careful not to let the door creak. I wasn't sure what had compelled me to follow the whispers of a secret club, only that the idea of mystery tugged at me, demanding to be unraveled. New school, new faces, and an unfamiliar town. I was drowning in anonymity. Perhaps that was why I tiptoed into the night, searching for something to make me feel like I belonged. The moonlight guided my steps as I crept through the dewy grass. my breath fogging in the autumn chill. The hushed voices grew clearer, an excited murmur beneath the rustling leaves. Hidden behind an ancient oak stood 5 figures huddled around a flickering lantern. The glow barely revealed their faces, but the tension in the air was undeniable. I pressed forward, my curiosity outweighing caution. The moment my foot crunched a twig, 5 heads snapped toward me. A girl with striking green eyes and dark curls stepped forward, her arms crossed. "Who are you?" she demanded. "Aura," I said, keeping my voice steady. "New here," I heard whispers. A boy with sharp features and an easy smirk, Ezra, chuckled. "Heard whispers and decided to come sneaking into the woods alone? You've got guts." Mira, petite and severe, scrutinized me with narrowed eyes. "And what if we were doing something dangerous?" "Then I'd rather be in on it than out," I shot back. That answer seemed to amuse them. Jonas and Willow exchanged glances before Jonas gestured toward the book they were gathered around. "Then step closer, newbie. See for yourself." I did. The tome was massive, its leather cover cracked with age, the pages filled with strange symbols and looping script. I glanced up. "A spell book?" Lena, the green-eyed girl, nodded. "It belonged to someone who went to this school a long time ago. We've been deciphering it for weeks." "And tonight," Ezra added, "we're picking our first spell." A thrill shot through me. "What are the choices?" Willow tapped a page with her finger. "A summoning spell. Could be calling a spirit, a creature, we're not entirely sure. Or," Mira interjected, flipping a few pages, "a veil spell that lets us pass unseen for a short time." Jonas leaned in. "Then there's this one, a bond spell. It ties the group that performs it together in a way we don't fully understand." I let out a breath. "You don't know what it does?" "Nope," Ezra grinned. "But the old notes we found said it's unbreakable." I considered them. Their faces were a mix of excitement and nerves. "Well," I said, "if you're looking for adventure, the bond spell seems like the way to go." Lena smirked. "Brave choice, Aura." The group circled closer as Willow translated the incantation aloud. The words felt thick on my tongue as we repeated them together, our voices weaving through the night air. The candle flickered wildly, a sudden gust of wind swirling around us. My skin prickled as an unseen force curled around my wrist like a phantom ribbon. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the wind stilled. We exchanged wary glances. "Did it work?" Mira asked. Ezra rolled his wrist. "I don't feel different." Then I felt it, a pulse in my chest, a tug just beneath my ribs like invisible threads connecting me to each of them. Lena gasped, clutching her own chest. "Oh," Jonas murmured. "I think it worked." Willow's voice was barely above a whisper. "What have we done?" A slow grin spread across Ezra's face. "We've started something big." I swallowed. A bond, unbreakable. Whatever happened next, I was no longer alone. The energy of the summoning spell crackled through the air, raw and electric, sending a shiver down my spine. The room dimmed, shadows twisting along the stone walls. the torches flickering as if struggling to stay lit against the surge of magic. I felt it all, every pulse, every vibration of the spell latching onto something or someone, pulling them from wherever they had been. Then, with a final snap of energy, Felix appeared. The others gasped, staggering backward. Their fear was tangible, hanging thick in the air like incense smoke. I should have felt it too, but I didn't. Because amidst the swirling magic, amidst the fear crackling in the eyes of my companions, there was something else, something familiar. Felix stood in the circle, his stance tense but not aggressive. His dark cloak barely shifted around him, though the force of the spell had sent papers flying across the room. His golden eyes flickered between us, sharp and assessing, until they landed on me. And then he froze. For a long moment we stared at each other. The recognition was instantaneous. Not just on his end, on mine too. I didn't know how, but I knew him. Not just in the vague way of déjà vu, not the way a face sometimes seems familiar in a crowded market. It was deeper than that, like a memory just out of reach, like something pressing against the edges of my mind, demanding to be let in. Felix's gaze softened, not entirely, not completely, but enough for me to see the flicker of confusion in his golden eyes. "Aura?" His voice was a whisper, yet it crashed into me like a tidal wave. The others reacted sharply to the name. Kellen grabbed my arm. "Aura, do you know him?" His voice was taut, his fingers digging into my skin. I hesitated. Did I? It felt like I did. The answer formed on my tongue before I even thought about it. Felix took a step forward and Kellen yanked me back. The others braced for an attack, weapons half drawn, spells at the ready. Felix ignored them. His focus was solely on me. "You don't remember, do you?" The words sent another ripple through my mind. Remember, as if I should. As if there was something buried within me, locked away behind doors I hadn't even realized existed. "I don't understand," I admitted, shaking my head. "Who are you?" Something flashed across his face. Pain, or maybe regret. Then, in an instant, it was gone, masked by the composed expression he wore like armor. "That," he said, his voice lower, almost to himself, "is a very complicated answer." The tension in the room didn't ease. Kellen kept his grip on me. Lysara, our resident spellcaster, was muttering under her breath, fingers twitching with unspent magic. The others were watching Felix as though he might sprout fangs and attack at any moment. But I knew better. "He's not dangerous," I said, surprising even myself with the certainty in my voice. Kellen's gaze snapped to me. "Aura, you can't know that." "I do." Felix exhaled, a short huff of something between relief and frustration. "At least someone in this room has some sense." The others didn't relax, but they didn't attack either. It was enough for now. Felix took another step forward, cautiously, as if testing how far he could go before someone decided to blast him across the room. "I wasn't expecting to be summoned," he said. His gaze lingered on me. "Especially not by you." "I didn't summon you." I said. The spell was cast to find someone who could help us. Felix let out a quiet chuckle, though there was no humor in it. Well, that's ironic. Kellen narrowed his eyes. Why? Felix's gaze flickered to him, then back to me. Because once upon a time, Aura was the one who helped me. Silence fell over the room, thick and heavy. My chest tightened. What do you mean? Felix studied me for a long moment before he spoke again. You don't remember me, he said, his voice softer than before. But I remember you. A sharp ache pressed behind my temples. I reached up, rubbing my forehead as flickers of something distant, something fragmented, surfaced in my mind. A hand reaching for mine, fingers interlacing, laughter echoing through stone corridors, a voice whispering my name in the dark. The images were gone as quickly as they came, slipping through my fingers like grains of sand. But they were there, real. Felix watched me carefully. It wasn't supposed to be like this, he murmured. You weren't supposed to forget. I swallowed hard. What happened to me? Felix hesitated, but only for a moment. Then he said, Someone took your memories. The words sent a shudder through me. The others reacted too, exchanging glances, but I barely registered it. All I could focus on was Felix, on the way his eyes bore into mine as if willing me to remember. They didn't take everything, I whispered. Something's still there. I can feel it. Felix nodded. Then we need to get it back. Kellen, ever the skeptic, stepped in front of me. Even if what you're saying is true, why should we trust you? Felix sighed, rubbing his temple as if this whole thing was giving him a headache. Because whether you like it or not, I'm the only one who knows what was taken from her, and how to fix it. A slow, terrible realization settled over me. You know who did this to me. Felix's expression darkened. I do. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. This was bigger than a simple summoning spell, bigger than anything we had expected. But I wasn't afraid, because no matter how much was missing, one thing was certain. I knew Felix, and now I needed to know why. I can't explain how I knew. The moment Felix tried to step through the threshold, something inside me clenched, like a cord pulled taut between us. The others saw the failure in practical terms, a spell improperly cast, a mistake in the incantation. But I knew it wasn't that. It was him, or rather, what he had become. They tried again. The sigils on the floor flared white, the air thickened, and the scent of burnt sage filled the club's back room. Felix stood still, his form flickering for a moment, a half-shadow cast against the wall. The spell collapsed. He remained. The club had seen its share of the supernatural, strange energies, whispered deals with unseen forces. But nothing like this. Nothing like him. The longer he stayed, the more I could feel something pulling at the edge of my consciousness, as if recognizing something in him that wasn't supposed to exist in our world. I'll study the spell, I said before anyone else could speak. Elijah frowned. It's a standard reversal incantation. If he's not going back, then either we got something wrong or he can't, I finished, meeting Felix's gaze. He had been silent through all of this, only watching. His eyes, once a soft brown, seemed darker now, threaded with something shifting beneath the surface. Something about it made my pulse quicken. Elijah exhaled through his nose, rubbing a hand over his jaw. Fine, do what you need to, but if he starts losing control, he won't. I wasn't sure why I was so certain of that, but the words felt solid in my mouth. Felix's lips twitched. Appreciate the vote of confidence. Later, in the dim solitude of my apartment, I spread out the original spell in front of me. The parchment, aged and worn, smelled of damp ink and something metallic. I traced the lines, feeling the undercurrent of energy beneath them. There was something else interwoven with the words, something I hadn't noticed before. A secondary layer, barely perceptible, but undeniable. This spell hadn't just been about returning someone to their rightful place. It had been about altering them first. A chill traced my spine as I leaned back, the weight of understanding settling in. Felix had changed, and whatever part of him wasn't from here anymore, it was tangled in this magic. I didn't realize how long I had been staring at the parchment until a presence at my back made me stiffen. Felix was standing in the doorway watching me. You figured something out. It wasn't a question. I hesitated, then nodded. It's not just a return spell. It does something else first. He stepped closer. What does it do? I swallowed. I don't know yet. He tilted his head, studying me with the same unnerving intensity I had begun to associate with him. But you feel it, don't you? I opened my mouth to deny it, but the words wouldn't come, because he was right. I did feel it. I felt it humming through my bones, as though some invisible thread was connecting me to whatever had been done to him. Then we figure it out together. I nodded slowly. Together. It was the first time I admitted, even to myself, that maybe Felix wasn't the only one who had changed. Cassius Vale is watching me again. I feel the weight of his gaze even before I see him. It's a prickle at the back of my neck, a whisper against my skin. When I turn the corner of the library's second floor, pretending to browse the shelves, I catch a glimpse of his silhouette in my periphery. He's always been sharp, razor cheekbones, calculating eyes. But there's something different about him now. His gaze isn't just competitive, it's inquisitive, suspicious. I force myself to keep walking, fingers brushing against the spines of old books, their magic humming faintly beneath my touch. My pulse quickens. I know exactly why Cassius is following me, and I can't let him prove his theory. If Felix finds out what my family used to be, no, I can't let that happen. Felix would defend me, of course. He's always there, always ready with a quick-witted joke or an obnoxiously dramatic flourish to deflect the tension. But even Felix couldn't stop the whispers if Cassius uncovered the truth. My family's history with magic is not something I can afford to resurface. A rustle echoes behind me, barely a breath of sound, but it's enough. Cassius is getting bolder. I need to lose him. I slip into a secluded reading alcove, pressing myself against the wall. Closing my eyes, I focus on the magic stirring beneath my skin. It's an old trick, just a whisper of energy, bending perception, making myself harder to notice. It's not invisibility, not really, more like a suggestion. You don't need to look here. Move along. Footsteps pause near the entrance of the alcove. My breath stills. Cassius doesn't leave. Interesting, he murmurs. I dare a glance. He's standing just outside the alcove, head tilted as if he can feel the magic in the air. He's always been annoyingly perceptive, but then he has a reason to be. The Vale family has been hunting secrets like mine for centuries. He turns suddenly, and I press deeper into the shadows. Then, "Oi, Cassius!" Felix's voice. Cassius barely has time to react before a spell explodes at his feet, coating his polished shoes in a thick layer of neon pink slime. He swears under his breath, stepping back with a look of utter disdain. Felix grins, flicking his wand like an artist adding a flourish to his masterpiece. "Looking good, mate. Pink really brings out your eyes." Cassius scowls. This is childish. Felix shrugs. "You make it so easy." For a moment, I think Cassius will retaliate. His fingers twitch, his jaw tightens, but then he glances toward my hiding spot. He knows I'm here. He knows I'm watching. I swallow hard. Then Cassius turns on his heel and stalks away, leaving a faint trail of pink slime in his wake. Felix watches him go, then sighs. "I don't get why he's so obsessed with you lately. Did you curse his cat or something?" I force a laugh. "Something like that." Felix doesn't press. He never does, not when he sees the shadows in my eyes. Instead, he throws an arm around my shoulder, pulling me toward the main hall. "Come on, let's get out of here before he comes back with a vendetta." I let him lead me away, but my mind stays behind. Cassius is getting too close. If he figures out the truth, I don't just risk my own secret. I risk the club. I risk Felix. And I can't let that happen. The next few days pass in a blur of evasion and tension. Cassius doesn't stop watching me. If anything, he becomes more persistent. He's always just there. A shadow at the edge of my vision, a presence in every class. Every time I think I've shaken him, I turn a corner and find him waiting. Felix continues his pranks, as relentless as ever. A chair that collapses the moment Cassius sits. An ink bottle that refills endlessly, spilling over the edges of his desk. A harmless illusion that makes him see tiny, glittering sprites flitting around his head. Cassius takes it all in stride, but I know it's frustrating him. I know because he starts pushing back. "You're hiding something, Aura." The words hit me like a spell to the chest. I turn slowly, finding Cassius standing too close, his expression unreadable. We're alone in the greenhouse, surrounded by the scent of earth and magic-infused flora. It's one of the few places I come to think, to breathe. And now he's here, invading that space too. "I don't know what you're talking about," I say, keeping my voice even. Cassius smiles, but it doesn't reach his eyes. Oh, I think you do. He steps closer, lowering his voice. I've been watching you, Aura. Your magic. It's different. I force a laugh, trying to sound amused rather than alarmed. Everyone's magic is different. He shakes his head. Not like yours. My pulse hammers. I need to get out of here. Are you done? For now. Cassius studies me for a moment longer, then, unexpectedly, smirks. Tell Felix I'll be returning the favor soon. Then he's gone, slipping into the shadows as if he was never there. I exhale shakily. Cassius is getting too close. He's asking the wrong questions, digging in places I thought were buried. And worst of all, I think he already has some of the answers. I followed Felix through the dimly lit corridor, the air thick with dust and the scent of old books. The abandoned wing of the school loomed before us, its cracked wooden doors standing as a testament to years of neglect. A shiver ran down my spine, but I wasn't about to back out, not after coming this far. Felix turned to us, his eyes gleaming with excitement. This is it, the perfect place for the ritual. He pushed open the heavy doors, revealing a vast, empty classroom with desks haphazardly shoved against the walls. The moonlight streaming through broken windows cast eerie shadows, making the room feel even more alive. I swallowed hard, my pulse quickening as I stepped inside with the others. Mira and Jonah exchanged uneasy glances, but they followed nonetheless. We gathered in a rough circle at the center of the room, our footsteps echoing in the emptiness. Felix pulled a battered book from his satchel and flipped through the pages. He traced his finger over the ancient script, murmuring softly. "Everyone ready?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, my fingers tightening around the candle I held. We each had one, their flickering flames casting restless glows on our faces. Felix instructed us to join hands. The moment we did, a shiver of energy rippled through the air. The hairs on my arms stood on end. He began chanting, the words rolling off his tongue like a forgotten melody. The room seemed to breathe, the shadows stretching and twisting. I felt something more than just nerves. A pressure, a pulse, something watching. Then I saw it, a shimmer in the air, like a heat wave distorting reality. It flickered to life, revealing an intricate web of glowing symbols across the floor. They pulsed with power, growing brighter with each word Felix spoke. The energy coiled, shifting like a living thing. I gasped, but before I could warn the others, it lashed out. I moved on instinct. My hands shot up, trying to shield myself from the burning light. The magic struck me like lightning, sending a searing heat racing up my arms. I cried out as the markings on the floor dissolved, leaving only the afterimage burned into my vision. The impact knocked me backward, my knees hitting the hard floor. The room fell silent, except for my ragged breathing. Then the doors burst open. Professor Ashford strode inside, his expression a mix of fury and something else. Fear. His gaze landed on me, then dropped to my hands. His eyes widened. I followed his stare and sucked in a breath. Strange markings glowed on my skin, curling like intricate tattoos along my fingers and wrists. The light pulsed softly before fading into faint dark patterns that still tingled with residual magic. "What have you done?" His voice was sharp, controlled, but I caught the underlying urgency. Felix stammered. We were just..." Professor Ashford silenced him with a look before kneeling in front of me. He grasped my wrists, his touch cool against the lingering warmth of the markings. I flinched but didn't pull away. "These symbols..." He traced a finger over them, his brow furrowing. "They shouldn't be here." The way he said it made my stomach twist. "What does that mean?" I whispered. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he released my hands and stood, turning to the others. "All of you, back to your dorms. Now." Felix hesitated, glancing at me, but when Professor Ashford's gaze hardened, he swallowed and nodded. Mira and Jonah followed without argument, leaving me alone with the professor. He turned back to me, his expression unreadable. "Aura, you need to come with me." I hesitated. "Professor, Now." Something in his tone left no room for refusal. I pushed myself up and followed him out of the abandoned wing. The hallway felt colder than before, the silence stretching uncomfortably between us. My hands still tingled, and I traced my fingers over the markings. They felt alive. Professor Ashford led me through winding corridors until we reached his office. He unlocked the heavy door and gestured for me to enter. I stepped inside, the familiar scent of parchment and herbs filling my senses. The room was cluttered, books piled high on every available surface, strange artifacts glimmering in the dim candlelight. He closed the door and faced me, his expression unreadable. "What you saw back there, no one else did they?" I shook my head. "No, just me." He exhaled sharply, rubbing his temples. "That magic, it was a ward, an ancient one. No student should have been able to activate it, let alone see it before it struck." His eyes darkened. "And yet, you did." I swallowed. "Why?" His hesitation was brief but noticeable. "Because, Aura, you have a connection to magic that goes beyond simple spells. Those markings on your hands, they are proof." I stared at him, the weight of his words pressing down on me. "Proof of what?" He hesitated again, then reached for a book from the nearest shelf. It was old, its spine cracked from years of use. He flipped through the pages before turning it toward me. My breath caught. The illustrations mirrored the markings on my skin exactly. "These symbols," he said slowly, "belong to an ancient lineage of magic users, a bloodline believed to be lost." I tore my gaze from the book, my heart pounding. "You're saying I'm..." "Yes," he confirmed. "And if these markings have awakened, it means something, or someone, is looking for you." A chill ran through me. The ritual, the ward, the strange energy. Had we stumbled into something much bigger than we realized? And if so, what was coming next? I stood quietly at the edge of the crowded clubroom, my thoughts swirling in a chaotic mess. Ashford's warning still echoed vividly in my mind, like a haunting melody that refused to fade. Forgotten magic isn't something to trifle with, he'd said, his voice low and serious. He had pulled me aside gently, away from the excited chatter of the others. His eyes, filled with both concern and urgency, made my heart beat uncomfortably fast. Your family, Aura. They were infamous for dabbling in forbidden spells. Spells powerful enough to summon beings like Felix. I clenched my fists tightly at the memory, feeling the sting of nails biting into my palms. I'd wanted to protest, to defend my family's name, but the moment Ashford mentioned Felix, the words died in my throat. Felix, the gentle spirit we'd called upon, wasn't supposed to be dangerous. Yet something in Ashford's expression told me there was more beneath the surface. I glanced over at Felix, who hovered innocently near the window, fascinated by the golden glow of the setting sun. It seemed impossible to fear him. His translucent wings shimmered softly, his presence comforting, almost childlike in curiosity. But Ashford's words had cast shadows of doubt I couldn't ignore. Aura? Layla's voice startled me from my reverie. Her eyes narrowed suspiciously. You're spacing out. Is everything okay? I forced a smile, nodding slightly. Yeah, just tired. Long day. She studied me carefully, but said nothing more, turning back to the club's heated discussion about exploring old spells further. The excitement radiating from them made my stomach churn with anxiety. We should look into these forgotten magics more, Ethan proclaimed eagerly. His eyes sparkled with reckless enthusiasm. If Felix is a product of such magic, imagine what else we could summon. A ripple of excitement passed through the room, unsettling me even more deeply. Maybe Ashford's right, I spoke softly, feeling dozens of eyes snap toward me instantly. The silence was deafening, and my heartbeat thundered loudly in my ears. Maybe this kind of magic was forgotten for a reason. You're joking, right? Ethan scoffed lightly, the room bursting into laughter. But Ashford's solemn gaze met mine across the space, unwavering and piercing. The heaviness in his eyes made my breath catch. Just be careful, I murmured, unable to voice the depth of my concerns fully. The meeting eventually dispersed into smaller conversations, with Felix happily fluttering around, oblivious to the tension gripping my heart. I lingered by the doorway, feeling trapped between Ashford's ominous revelation and my loyalty to friends who trusted me implicitly. Ashford found me again as the others left, standing tall beside me as the clubroom emptied. Did you tell them? He asked quietly, his voice gentle but probing. I shook my head, staring at my shoes. No. Why not? Because I don't want them to look at Felix or me differently, I admitted, feeling vulnerable. I don't want to lose their trust. Ashford exhaled softly, understanding in his gaze. I get that, Aura. But some truths can't remain hidden forever. I met his eyes sharply, a pang of guilt slicing through me. I know, But Felix, he's harmless. Whatever my family once did, he's not a monster. Ashford nodded solemnly. I believe you mean that. But spells like these are unpredictable. You need to be prepared. As he walked away, leaving me alone in the fading sunlight, my thoughts spiraled further into confusion and fear. I knew he was right. I could feel it deep in my bones, in the way Felix sometimes flickered, in those brief moments when his gentle eyes darkened just slightly. But I pushed those thoughts away, stepping outside into the cool evening breeze. Felix fluttered silently beside me, his light touch on my shoulder both comforting and chilling. How could I ever betray something so pure, so innocent? Yet, as I walked home beneath the twilight sky, the weight of my secret felt heavier with each step. Forbidden magic, dark family legacies, secrets kept for the sake of friendship. Every part of me knew this couldn't last. Aura. Felix spoke softly, his voice barely above a whisper. You seem troubled. I glanced at him, my heart aching with uncertainty. I'm just tired, Felix. He seemed unconvinced but didn't press further. Instead, he simply stayed by my side, his presence both reassuring and unnerving. Later that night, as moonlight filtered softly through my bedroom window, sleep eluded me completely. My mind kept returning to what Ashford said, each word echoing like a grim prophecy. My family's history had always been clouded, something we'd kept hidden even from ourselves. But now that darkness felt dangerously close, brushing against my fingertips. Finally, unable to resist, I moved quietly to the attic where my grandmother's old belongings were stored. Dust swirled softly in the moonlight as I uncovered a worn leather-bound book, its edges frayed and pages yellowed with age. My fingers trembled as I flipped carefully through the brittle pages, gasping softly when familiar symbols stared back at me. Symbols that matched those we'd used to summon Felix. Aura! Felix's voice startled me sharply, and I dropped the book instantly, turning to see him hovering anxiously near the attic entrance. What are you doing? Just looking, I whispered, picking up the book again slowly. Felix watched me, his usually gentle eyes darkened by something unreadable. Some doors should remain closed, he murmured quietly, sadness tinging his voice. My pulse quickened. Do you know about these spells, Felix? He hesitated, translucent wings fluttering nervously. Only enough to fear them. Fear them? My voice shook slightly. Are you dangerous, Felix? A deep sorrow filled his eyes, the innocence fading just enough to reveal something older, darker beneath. Not by choice. The admission crushed me, a painful truth that I had ignored too long. Felix was not merely a harmless spirit, and my family's past wasn't something I could escape simply by ignoring it. Tell me everything, I pleaded softly, desperation lacing my voice. He drifted closer, the air growing colder with each passing second. The magic that brought me here binds me to your family. It's ancient, powerful, and yes, dangerous. I've fought to remain who you see, Aura, but the pull is strong. The spell demands more every day. A chill ran down my spine, fear mingling sharply with guilt. Demands what? He hesitated again, pain shadowing his features. Life, energy, eventually, souls. My heart stopped for a second, the revelation horrifying in its clarity. My voice trembled, barely audible. Have you hurt someone? Not yet, he whispered solemnly, but I feel it, the need growing stronger. My fingers clutched the spell book tightly, my world fracturing around me. Felix's existence, my family's past, and my own choices were tangled hopelessly. Ashford had been right. This magic wasn't meant to be awakened. Aura, Felix's voice softened, filled with a heartbreaking plea. Please help me. Staring into his sorrowful eyes, feeling the weight of my ancestors' choices upon my shoulders, I knew the path ahead would be painful, uncertain, and terrifying. But turning back was no longer an option. I will, I promised quietly, determination rising fiercely within me. We'll find a way. Together. Felix nodded slowly, the briefest glimmer of hope returning to his eyes. And as dawn approached, illuminating a new day filled with daunting uncertainty, I braced myself for the battle ahead. No longer able to ignore the shadows lurking at the edge of forgotten magic, I accepted that the truth would soon demand to be told. I hesitate before the mirror, my breath catching in my throat. The reflection staring back at me is unmistakably mine. Same dark curls, same wide eyes. But the scene surrounding me is not the dusty library I stand in. Instead, the dim candlelight flickers on aged stone walls, casting shifting shadows over rich tapestries and wooden shelves stacked with scrolls. And beside me in the reflection stands Felix, but not as he is now. His usual hoodie and jeans have been replaced by a fitted dark tunic, a silver chain resting against his chest. His hair is slightly longer, curling at the edges, and his expression is more assured, almost knowing. The mirror breathes my name, not Aura. The sound of it sends a shiver through me. Felix steps closer, his voice hushed. Aura, did you hear that? His fingers graze my arm, grounding me in the present, but the image in the mirror remains unchanged. It said, Aurelia? I heard it, I whisper, my voice barely above a breath. My pulse pounds in my ears. It called me that, but that's not my name. Is it? Felix meets my gaze in the mirror, his eyes searching mine. You were the only one who could open the door. Maybe this has something to do with you, who you were. The air thickens with something ancient, something waiting. The mirror pulses, its surface warping like water rippled by a single drop. And then the world shifts. Darkness rushes over me like ink spilled across parchment, swallowing the library, Felix, the present. I reach out, trying to grasp onto something, anything, but my fingers slip through empty air. The mirror pulls me in, dragging me through a space that feels neither here nor there, time twisting around me like an uncoiling thread. And then I am the stone walls, the candlelight, the scent of parchment and wax. It's no longer just a reflection. It's I gasp, stumbling forward. My boots clack against the stone floor. The weight of heavy fabric pulls at my shoulders, and when I glance down, my usual t-shirt and jeans have vanished, replaced by a long emerald green gown laced with gold embroidery. My hands are different too, adorned with rings that feel strangely familiar. Aurelia. The voice is deeper this time, resonant, close. I whirl around. Felix stands there watching me carefully. But he's not surprised. He expected this. Felix? My voice shakes. He takes a step forward, then bows slightly. You've returned. Something inside me twists. Returned? What are you talking about? Where are we? He watches me, unreadable. This is where you belong. I shake my head, my heart hammering against my ribs. No, this isn't possible. 1 second I was in the library and now... You don't remember, do you? His expression softens, but there's something guarded in his eyes. You were taken from here, from me, and now the mirror has brought you back. A chill slides down my spine. You're saying I lived here? That I was... Aurelia, he finishes for me. The name the mirror called you, the name once answered to. I shake my head, but fragments of something buried deep, begin to surface. The scent of burning parchment, the clang of metal against metal, the weight of a promise whispered beneath moonlight. I squeeze my eyes shut. This is impossible. Is it? Felix steps closer. His voice is quieter now, almost coaxing. Look inside yourself, Aurelia. You know this place. You know me. A memory flickers in the depths of my mind. A hand clasped in mine. Laughter beneath star-streaked skies. A desperate farewell. I take a step back. No, this is just a trick, some kind of... It's the truth, he interrupts, his voice almost pleading. You just have to remember. The candlelight flickers. Shadows stretch along the walls, their shapes shifting into something almost human, almost familiar. I don't... My voice falters, because I do. Asterisk, asterisk. I do remember the first time I saw the mirror ripple. I told myself it was just my imagination. The second time, I knew better. I stood in the dim light of the library's hidden chamber, the old ornate mirror looming before me. Its silvered surface shimmered, not reflecting my face, but instead showing something else. A young woman no older than I, dressed in outdated academy robes. Her eyes were wide, filled with something between terror and resignation. She opened her mouth. I leaned in, and then... nothing. A crack of sound behind me. I spun, heart pounding. Felix stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. You shouldn't be here, he said, his usual smirk absent. I swallowed, my fingers tightening around the edge of the heavy oak table. You knew, didn't you? My voice was softer than I intended, almost reverent. About the mirror, about her. Felix sighed and ran a hand through his dark hair. Aura, let this go. I shook my head. Who is she? Silence stretched between us. He looked away. That was answer enough. I turned back to the mirror. She's trapped. Felix's voice was quieter now. She's gone. I pressed my fingers to the glass. Cold. But beneath the icy surface, something moved, flickering like candlelight. She's still here. Felix stepped forward. Aura, listen to me. People who dig too deep into Academy secrets don't get to walk away unchanged. I turned to face him fully. And you think I'm going to just ignore this? His jaw tightened. I think you don't understand what you're getting into. I met his gaze. Then help me understand. Another silence. He looked at me, really looked at me, as if weighing something invisible in the air. Finally, with a breath like a surrender, he spoke. This has happened before. I shivered. To who? His hesitation was brief but telling. To her. He nodded toward the mirror. And others. I exhaled, the pieces clicking into place. The Academy wasn't just a school, it was a cage, a loop, and I was part of it. Felix tried to dissuade me, but I couldn't ignore what I had seen. Over the next few days, I pored over dusty records, flipping through pages that had been deliberately hidden, altered, or outright erased. The name I was looking for was gone, scrubbed from history, but that didn't mean she never existed. It happened late one night, long after curfew, when I found the final clue. A tattered journal, wedged deep between two forgotten books in the restricted archives. I flipped it open, and the first words sent a chill through me. My breath caught. The handwriting was eerily familiar, almost like my own. I read on, the pages filled with fragmented memories, warnings, desperate pleas. The student, whoever she had been, had uncovered something terrible, something that bound her to the mirror. And now it was binding me. A shadow flickered in my peripheral vision. I turned. Felix stood there, his face set in grim resignation. You found it, he said quietly. I nodded. Tell me the truth. He hesitated, but only for a moment. You're not just tied to this history, Aura. His voice was almost a whisper. You, the history. The words sent a pulse of ice through my veins. The mirror behind me rippled again. And this time, when I looked, I saw not just the trapped student, I saw myself. The moment Cassius touches the artifact, the air splits open like a wound. I don't hear the enchantment activate so much as feel it, like a pulse beating against the fabric of reality, unraveling everything I know. The chamber wavers, its stone walls melting into something else, something distant, something that should not be. Then I am elsewhere. The scent of burning incense clings to the air, thick and heady, winding around me like invisible tendrils. My garments have changed. Where my usual attire should be, I find flowing silk and embroidered patterns, golden clasps fastening the fabric at my shoulders. A weight pulls against my wrist, and when I glance down, I see delicate chains, fine as spider silk, tracing from my bracelet to the rings upon my fingers. I am not alone. Felix stands beside me, but he is not as I remember. He does not smirk, does not lean with easy arrogance, does not flick his fingers as if spinning mischief from the air. Instead, he stands straight, his expression composed, his eyes sharp and alert. He wears armor, not the patchwork leather I have seen him don in past escapades, but something regal, something that gleams like captured moonlight. A guardian, not a trickster. Felix? My voice is barely above a whisper, but the name sounds wrong, as if it does not belong here. His eyes flick to mine. You should not speak so informally, my lady. My breath catches. My lady? He has never called me that before. Panic flutters against my ribs like a trapped bird, and I take a step back, trying to piece together the threads of this illusion. What is this? Where are we? But Felix, no, not Felix, not as I know him, only inclines his head. You are safe. That is all that matters. I turn in place, searching for something familiar, but the room is vast and unfamiliar, lined with marble pillars and golden sconces casting flickering light. The chamber hums, not with the echoes of an ancient tomb, but with life, with power, with history breathing against my skin. This is not the underground ruin where we stood moments ago. This is a palace. Memories that do not belong to me whisper at the edges of my mind, pressing inward, urging me to accept them. I feel the phantom weight of a crown that is not there. I know somehow that I should walk with measured steps, that my presence demands reverence. The knowledge is insidious, creeping through me, sinking into my bones as if it has always been there. I shake my head sharply, trying to resist it. This isn't real. Felix, this version of him, does not deny it. But he does not confirm it either. Instead, he shifts his stance, his gaze sweeping the room as if seeking unseen threats. We should not linger. There are those who would seek to undo all that has been built. A chill runs down my spine. What has been built? The kingdom, my lady. Your kingdom. The world tilts. I am breathing too fast, my fingers clutching at the delicate fabric draping my arms. No, I murmur. No, this isn't right. Felix steps closer. I expect him to reach for me, to reassure me with a jest or a grin, but his hands remain at his sides, his expression unreadable. You must be strong. The court awaits your command. A part of me, the part still tethered to reality, wants to scream. But another part, the one drowning in this illusion, understands. And that terrifies me. I do not know how long I stand there, my thoughts battling against the enchantment, but suddenly the world fractures. Like glass under pressure, the illusion shatters, light spilling through the cracks. The palace, the weight of silk, the distant hum of a waiting court. Everything collapses into nothingness. Then I am back. The underground chamber looms around me, its damp air pressing against my skin. My hands tremble as I clutch at my real clothes, as if grounding myself in their familiar texture will anchor me. My heart pounds against my ribs, frantic and wild. Felix is beside me, the real Felix, the trickster, the liar, the enigma. I whirl on him. What was that? He does not answer. His face is unreadable, his golden eyes unreadable in the dim torchlight. Felix! My voice is sharp, demanding. Still he does not speak. Instead, he merely watches me, something dark and knowing flickering in his gaze, as if he understands something I do not. And I hate that. I step closer, my breath uneven. You knew what would happen. His jaw tightens, but still he says nothing. The realization is slow, dreadful. That wasn't just an illusion, was it? Silence. I swallow hard. Felix. A long pause. Then, finally, he speaks, his voice quiet, weighted. Not entirely. I stared at Felix, my heart hammering against my ribs, my breath shallow. The weight of his confession hung between us like a veil of mist, separating what I thought I knew from a truth that shattered everything. Aurelia Nightshade, my ancestor, a name whispered in old family records, a name I barely understood except for the power it carried. The lineage I had been taught to revere but never question. And now Felix, my Felix, had once been bound to her, not by choice but by duty. He was meant to be her protector, but something had gone wrong. What happened? My voice barely registered above a whisper. Felix lowered his gaze, his usually vibrant eyes shadowed by something ancient, something haunted. I failed her. I swallowed hard. How? She miscalculated the spell, he admitted, his fingers curling into fists at his sides. She didn't complete the binding properly. Instead of securing me to her in service, she severed the balance between our souls. I wasn't free, but I wasn't fully hers either. And then? Felix let out a breath, looking up at me, his expression unreadable. She died. The words struck like a slap, unexpected and cruel. So that's why you're trapped, I said slowly, piecing it together. That's why you're still here. You were never released. A nod. I was meant to pass on when my bond to her was complete, but since the summoning was left unfinished, I've existed in this limbo, tied to the bloodline but never truly belonging. I took a step back, needing the space to process the implications. And now you want me to fix it? Felix hesitated. I don't want anything from you, Aura, but I won't lie to you either. If I am to be freed, it has to be you. Because of my bloodline. He nodded again. You're the only one left who carries the magic capable of completing what she started. I exhaled, rubbing my temples. My entire life I had been warned about the dangers of unfinished magic, of spells gone wrong. But no one had ever told me that a soul could be caught in between, unable to move forward or back. And Felix, he had been by my side all these years, never telling me the truth, never showing me his suffering. What does the spell require? I asked, knowing I would regret the answer. His lips pressed together, his jaw tight. A sacrifice. A chill ran down my spine. What kind of sacrifice? The kind that costs. I met his gaze, unflinching. Tell me. Felix sighed. The binding was meant to tie me to Aurelia in service, but it went wrong. To undo it, the spell requires an equal and opposite exchange. A soul for a soul. My stomach dropped. You're saying I'd have to give up, not your life, he interrupted quickly, reaching for my hand but stopping just short of touching me. But something irreplaceable, something that defines who you are. I shook my head, stepping away again. That could be anything. My memories, my magic, my... He didn't deny it. That's why I never told you before. I wouldn't ask this of you. I let out a humorless laugh, but I asked. And now I know. Silence stretched between us. The flickering candlelight cast long shadows against the walls, the weight of the past pressing down on me. My mind raced through the possibilities, the risks, the loss. If I did this, if I freed him, I might lose a part of myself I could never get back. And yet, I looked at Felix, not just as a protector, not just as a shadow of something unfinished, but as someone who had been suffering for centuries, someone I cared about. Tell me how to do it. Felix's eyes darkened. Aura, I need to know, I said firmly. If I choose to do this, I need to know exactly what it means. His shoulders tensed, and for a long moment I thought he might refuse. But then he sighed and nodded. The ritual requires a conduit, he explained. A space prepared with sigils of release and protection, and the offering. What kind of offering? Felix hesitated before answering. Something bound to you, something that makes you who you are, your deepest connection to magic. I frowned, considering. My power had always been rooted in intuition, in the whispers of unseen forces. I could sense magic the way others sensed the weather, could weave spells with a touch. If that was what I had to give up, I shivered. Could I do that? Could I let go of something so intrinsic to my being? Felix must have seen the conflict in my expression because his own softened. You don't have to. But I did. I took a steadying breath. Where do we start? His lips parted slightly, surprised. Then he nodded, and together we began preparing the ritual. Hours passed as we carved the sigils into the stone floor, lining the space with symbols of release and protection. My fingers ached, my heart pounded, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. Felix stood at the center of the circle, watching me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. He didn't speak, but he didn't have to. This was it, the moment that would decide everything. I stepped into the circle, taking my place before him. Tell me what to say. Felix's voice was low, steady. Repeat after me. I followed his words, feeling the power ripple through the air as I spoke. The sigils began to glow, humming with energy. The magic twisted around us, unseen but palpable. Then, as the final words left my lips, a sharp pain lanced through me. I gasped, doubling over. It felt as if something was being pulled from me, drawn from the deepest part of my soul. my magic, my connection to it. It burned, then dulled, then faded. And Felix, he gasped, his form flickering, then solidifying. He was free. I collapsed to my knees, my breath ragged. The world felt distant, muted. The whispers of magic that had always danced at the edge of my senses were gone. I was empty. Felix knelt beside me, his hands on my shoulders. Aura. I looked up at him, exhaustion and loss weighing heavy. But despite everything, I managed a weak smile. You're free. His expression was conflicted, gratitude warring with something else. Grief, perhaps, or guilt. I'm sorry, he whispered. I shook my head. Don't be. It was my choice. Felix exhaled, his hands tightening slightly before he pulled me into an embrace. And as I let my head rest against his shoulder, I knew that despite the cost, despite everything I had lost, I had done what was right, even if I would never be the same again. I stand at the center of the summoning circle, my breath shallow, heart hammering against my ribs. The glow of the ritual fades, leaving behind a silence thick with expectation. Felix is beside me, his form flickering like a dying flame, and before us the shadowy entity looms, shifting in and out of focus. Its voice slithers into my mind without sound, a whisper that I somehow understand as clearly as if it were my own thoughts. You are the one who bound him. You are the magician of old, reborn, carrying the weight of a past you have long forgotten. The words cut through me, unraveling every certainty I had left. I feel the memory stirring within me, ancient knowledge clawing its way to the surface, revealing fragments of a past life hidden beneath the fabric of my existence. I see glimpses of another me, a sorcerer cloaked in power, standing in this very spot centuries ago, sealing Felix's fate with words etched in magic. I sway, unsteady, as the entity's offer unfolds in my mind. Break the spell, it urges, and you will both be free. But know this, Felix was never meant to exist. Undo the binding, and he will be erased, unmade, returned to the void from which he came. Or let things remain as they are. He will remain, but so will his shackles. I turn to Felix, searching his face for an answer, but he says nothing. His golden eyes, so familiar and yet so foreign, hold an emotion I cannot name. Desperation, resignation, or something deeper, something unspeakable. Felix? My voice trembles. Tell me what you want. He exhales sharply, and for a moment his form solidifies. It's not about what I want, Aura. It never has been. It's about what you can live with. A cold weight settles in my chest. I could free him, but at what cost? Felix is not just a remnant of magic. He is a presence, a force that has shaped my life in ways I never realized until this moment. Without him, there would be no laughter in stolen moments, no whispered conversations in the dark, no warm presence watching over me when I felt alone. But is he real? Or is he merely an echo of my past mistake, a byproduct of power wielded without thought for its consequences? I press a hand to my chest, trying to steady the storm within me. The truth is undeniable now. I did this. I bound him to this world, caged him with my own hands. And yet, knowing that doesn't change how I feel now. If I break the spell, I whisper, will he feel it? Will he know? The shadow shifts, tendrils curling like smoke. He will simply cease. No pain, no fear, no regret, just nothing. Felix lets out a hollow laugh. Reassuring, isn't it? He turns to me fully, his expression unreadable. Would you have done it back then, if you knew what I would become? I shake my head, unable to answer. The past me, the magician of old, I don't know who they were. I don't know what drove them to bind Felix. Perhaps I was selfish. Perhaps I was desperate. Perhaps I thought I was saving him. But I am not that person now. I am Aura, and I must decide. You don't have to do this, Felix says softly. I've lived like this for so long. I can keep going. It's not so bad. But I hear the lie in his voice. I see the weariness in his stance. And I know the truth. He has been trapped in this half-existence for too long. To keep him here, knowing what I know, would be cruel. Tears sting my eyes. I don't want to lose you. You already have me, he murmurs. You always have. And maybe that's enough. I close my eyes, drawing in a shaky breath. The incantation rises unbidden to my lips, ancient and familiar. My hands tremble as I trace the final symbols into the air. Magic swells around us, thick and luminous, filling the space between us with unbearable weight. Felix smiles, and for the first time it reaches his eyes. Thank you, Aura. The final word falls from my lips and light erupts, blinding and absolute. And then, silence. The air is still. The room is empty. I am alone. The night was heavy with the weight of my decision. Felix stood before me, his eyes searching mine for any hesitation. I wished I could find it in me to falter, to let my resolve break like a brittle branch underfoot. But I had made my choice, and once the words left my lips, there would be no turning back. I release you, Felix. The air between us shimmered, and a deep, aching force surged through my chest. I gritted my teeth against the pain. It felt as if something inside me was being unraveled, a thread pulled from the fabric of my very being. My vision blurred, and the world seemed to ripple, as though reality itself struggled to remain whole. Felix took a step forward, reaching out. Aura! But already his voice was fading, his presence slipping away like mist in the morning sun. I clung to the sight of him, desperately trying to carve every line of his face into my memory. The sharp angles of his jaw, the way his hair always seemed slightly tousled, the quiet intensity in his golden eyes. Golden eyes. A moment later I blinked and he was gone. The silence that followed was deafening. I pressed a trembling hand to my chest, my heartbeat erratic and uneven. Something was missing, something I should remember. I knew I had lost something precious, yet when I reached for it in my mind, all I found was an aching void. Time passed in a haze. Days turned into weeks, then months, and the emptiness inside me became a dull, constant presence, like a forgotten name at the edge of my tongue. I lived, I moved forward, but a piece of me had been left behind in that moment I could no longer recall. One evening, as the last light of the sun stretched across the trees, I wandered through the woods, my thoughts lost in the quiet hum of the world around me. The scent of damp earth and pine filled my senses, grounding me in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. And then I saw it. A fox, poised between the trees, its form barely more than a silhouette against the fading light. But its eyes, those golden eyes, glowed with an ethereal light, locking onto mine with an intensity that sent a shiver down my spine. Something inside me stirred. I should have felt afraid, but instead, a warmth bloomed in my chest, so sudden and unfamiliar that I almost gasped. The fox watched me, unblinking, as if it recognized me, as if it was waiting for me to remember. I took a step forward, my breath hitching. Do I know you? The fox tilted its head, and for a fleeting moment a whisper of something brushed against my mind. A laugh, a voice, a presence, a name I couldn't grasp. And yet tears pricked at my eyes, my heart aching in a way I couldn't explain. The fox took a step back, as if urging me to follow, and so I did. With each step into the woods, the warmth in my chest grew stronger, the empty space inside me no longer feeling quite so hollow. I didn't know what I was searching for, but for the first time in months, I felt as if I was exactly where I was meant to be.